Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to students and parents joining us from across Canada and around the world. A warm welcome to Huron's virtual Fall Open House 2021. My name is Mustafa Ez, and I'm the Director of International Recruitment here at Huron and a former Huron student myself. And I am extremely excited to be joined by a great group of former classmates, Huron alumni, and true leaders with heart who are here today to give you an alumni masterclass into their various career journeys and advice and tips for how to set yourself up for career and leadership success. As many of you may know, if there is one thing that Huron is truly known for in Canada, it's developing some of the country's most impactful leaders with heart. Not only do our graduates enjoy outstanding opportunities, whether it's the fact that 3 of Canada's 5 largest organizations are run by graduates of Huron, or that across any sector, whether it's in technology, business, government, international affairs, psychology, social services, and more, 2 out of 3 Huron alumni hold senior leadership roles. Most importantly is Huron's focus on your heart as much as your mind means that our community of alumni are making outstanding impacts in their field, not just on a personal level, but on a more importantly, a wider societal and global level. And this is something which you will definitely have access to as a student and get the opportunity to receive mentorship and insights from our alumni throughout your 4 years at the university. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our wonderful alumni panel who are joining us here today, and then we're going to go into questions and answers. So if anything comes to mind and you're something you want to ask, whether it's the entire group or a particular alumni, please don't hesitate to ask in the chat feature. Today is all about you and ensuring that you have all the information that you need. So Taylor, I'd love to invite you to begin with our introductions today. If you could please share with us what you studied at Huron, any roles you've held since graduation, and what is your current role?
Sure. Hi, my name's Taylor. I completed a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology with honor specialization at Huron, and I graduated in 2019. After grad, I entered the Master of Education program in Human Development and Psychology at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, which was a 1-year program, and graduated in 2020. Since grad, I moved to New York, and I've been working as a lab manager at the Language Experience and Acquisition Research Lab at NYU. In the NYU Steinhardt School of Culture, Education, and Human Development. And yeah, I hope to continue working in the US and pursue similar research roles.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Taylor. Emily, would you like to go next?
Okay, there we go. Sorry, I wasn't letting me unmute for a minute there. Thank you, Mustafa. Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Addison. I graduated Huron in 2016. I studied political science and a bit of media studies over at main campus in the MIT department. So that was one of my favorite things about Huron, is actually getting to have a little bit of everything that Western and the other affiliates have to offer, as well as the great teachers at Huron. Since graduating, I went over to the UK, did my master's in political communications, and spent a year over there. Then I moved to New York, where I did an internship at the United Nations for 6 months, which I think is every political science student's dream opportunity, and it was just about as great as it sounded. After that, I thought I'd move back to Toronto, kind of decide to set some roots down, and I worked for a political lobby group for a little bit before getting involved in politics properly. I joined an election campaign in 2018. We were luckily successful, and I joined the Premier's office in Ontario after that. So worked in various policy type roles, kind of working my way up from executive assistant into a deputy director of policy, which was quite an incredible role. And then just recently left that position to take up my current job, which
Emily, I think we may have frozen, so your screen being frozen right now. So can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you.
Perfect. Did you catch any of that, or do you want me to start over?
Oh no, we caught all of it minus the
Okay.
ending. Your current role, just your current role right now.
So my current role is with the United Kingdom government. So I'm working for the British Consulate in Toronto, where I run the Canadian investment team. So I work with Canadian companies to help them expand into the UK and lead across the Canada team in that role.
How exciting. Thank you, Emily. And next up, we have Mr. Vivek Prabhu.
Thanks, Mustafa. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you all this morning. Excuse me. So a little bit about me. I graduated from Huron in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in history. And I subsequently went to Carleton University in Ottawa to attain my master's of political management. After that, I went to work in the office of the Prime Minister of Canada in communications and issues management, which was really an eye-opening experience, and went to work for the First Minister of British Columbia and BC to focus on communications and political advertising. So after my political ventures, I decided to join Hill & Knowlton Strategies, which is a global communications agency with offices all around the world, specifically in government relations and public relations as a consultant. I worked for companies in healthcare, technology, manufacturing, and regulated industries. And some really interesting highlights for me was working with cannabis companies as legalization in Canada occurred and how to navigate those regulations, and helping organizations navigate the COVID-19 pandemic, and being on the all kinds of different teams and organizations that are working to really kind of invest in Canada and to better Canada. I went on to become a vice president there and led our public affairs team out of the Toronto office. Now I am a vice president at a company called Switch Health. They are a medical devices company, and they're really trying to innovate healthcare access through decentralized diagnostics. So kits, home test kits that you can take home. Right now, the big product they have is actually COVID-19 testing kits, probably not surprising. So I still get the chance to participate in political campaigns at different levels of government. And I've also had the opportunity to become the president of the Huron Alumni Association, where I learn about all kinds of different alumni and get them connected to each other in the school. And that's a bit about me, and look forward to chatting today.
Wow, this is one of my favorite panels of the day by far. Students and parents, so you've heard so many interesting and exciting trajectories today of life after Huron. So our panelists have gone to Harvard for their master's degree, worked at the United Nations, the Prime Minister's office, or leading, some of the most pioneering medical device and health tech firms in the country right now. So there's so much insights and wisdom here today. I invite you all to ask your questions using the chat feature, and let us know anything on your mind that you'd like one or all of our panelists to answer. To that end, we have our very first question from Dr. Sharma. Thank you for being here today. And the question relates to a really important one. It asks about, can you share the advantages of studying at Huron, and how a liberal arts education prepares you all for the careers that you're in now? Perhaps we can go in the same order as before, and we can begin with Taylor.
Hi, sure. Yeah, I think the kind of liberal arts curriculum at Huron, especially for me as a psychology major, was taking a really broad range of courses. So I feel like especially in the sciences and for honor specialization programs, it can, become pretty circular and insular as it is for a lot of sciences. I found it really refreshing to take a lot of English courses and, other humanities courses, which actually inspired a lot of my research in undergrad. I became interested in social emotional learning through just more interdisciplinary readings of, Howard Gardner and other psychologists. But yeah, I think, part of the benefit of that is kind of bringing creativity more, at least for me in the sciences. And I think a lot of course structures at the undergraduate level are really limiting. And especially when you're looking at graduate programs, psych curriculum are very standardized, and it can be hard to stand out. So yeah, there's always the benefit of internships and jobs and extracurriculars, but I think the curriculum, which already has that kind of breadth built in, and especially in psychology, the trend now is having a broader range of skills rather than, as more specialized range. I definitely found that to be an advantage for me when, applying to graduate programs, because I just had different experiences, even just kind of at the course level. And I did think that, yeah, it helped me.
Couldn't agree more, Taylor. Thank you so much. And Emily?
Yeah, thanks, Moose. I see probably three really big things were most impactful for me during my time at Huron. I mean, number one, there's a little bit chatted about already, is the small class sizes. You really have a great opportunity at Huron to, some of your first year classes, sure, there'll be the larger lecture, but a larger lecture at Huron, I think, is, Moose, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 60 people as opposed to the multiple hundreds that you get at most schools. So you still do get that opportunity to kind of learn from a broader group of students, but then you also have your smaller seminars. And then as you kind of progress through the years, some of my second, third, and fourth year classes were anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 students, which really gave you a really great opportunity, not only to connect really closely with your classmates, connect with your professors, but also really get into some really good discussions where you kind of test out your ideas, see what works, in kind of a more welcoming environment. And kind of with that, I think the thing that I really find at Huron is such a supportive community. So whether it's your professors, your classmates, or just kind of the school as a whole, a lot of people spend a lot of time on campus. You can kind of always walk around the common areas and see somebody that you know, or meet somebody for lunch in the dining hall, whatever it is. Everybody's really around and wants to help, wants to kind of just get to know other people that are in the campus community. And with that too, I really found it was a great opportunity to get involved in kind of extracurriculars. I got really involved in campus politics, which I think certainly really helped me kind of propel my career into government, and into kind of the public relations field of things. And I think I had those opportunities because I had that supportive community that was able to kind of target me into different government opportunities. I mean, Vivek and I joke all the time. He was the Huron Student Council president when I was in second year, and he actually convinced me to run for it in my third year. So I did that after the fact, and then a couple of years later, Moose followed and was president as well. So we kind of all were a group of friends that were quite passionate about helping the school and kind of giving back and making a difference. But we also got really great professional experiences out of it, where we got to do very legitimate things like sit on the alumni board, sit on the board of directors, and participate with main campus events as well. So you still had that access to kind of the bigger world of Western, whether it was through the rec center or other campus clubs. But you had that supportive community to actually get yourself involved, get some stuff, really good stuff for your resume, and even more importantly than that, really good experiences that I still draw on today. Pass it over to you, Vivek.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, like, if you look around our circle of classmates and friends at Huron, it's quite clear that for all of us, Huron really gives you, professional and leadership experiences that are ahead of your time. I mean, I think at most campuses, you don't get these kind of chances until your master's degree. But for us, it's just so standard in the undergrad that I think it's a huge part as to why the alumni here are so distinct. So thanks, Emily, for sharing examples of that. Vivek, what would you say, in your opinion, from your own experiences?
Sure. So I think some of the examples these guys touched on, because I think they're absolutely true. But one thing I would say is that I think Huron, it's kind of an obvious fact, I guess, but it has some of the best academics in Canada. But that's, I'm sure there are other universities that would say that too. But the one thing that I think is a big differentiating factor, and this has been said or alluded to, but is actually the small class sizes. But more than that, I think it's actually the ability to engage with your professors on a much more deeper level, right? You can have all kinds of academic institutions across Canada that say they have the best academics. But I think what really develops you as a person is to be able to engage with people who are much more along in their lives or in their professions, your professors, and actually be able to engage with these kinds of adults. And it makes you grow much faster as a person, and it makes you learn all kinds of things that are just beyond kind of what's in the textbook, right? Like, I think that is something that people don't necessarily think about, but it goes far beyond just core academics. The other thing I would flag is the context of access and the kind of access that these students have. Very small school, but it's deliberate that way. Like, there have been so many opportunities to grow this school because students want to come here. If we wanted to increase the numbers, we could, but that's the president of this school has decided to deliberately keep it small. So it's a small school with massive, beautiful grounds. If you were to be there, you would think you're kind of in a rural setting, but you're actually in the middle of a mid-sized city, an approachable city. But it's also across from Western, a major research-focused STEM-based university with all of those clubs, all of those classes, all those things that you can access. You have universal access to all of those things, which is while you have the comfort of a small school, you still have access to a major university that has thousands of students, and with it has all of those opportunities as well. All of that is 2 hours from Toronto, which I don't need to tell probably anyone on this call. Toronto, a major international city with access to anything that you could possibly want, unless without all the hassle of actually living there. So I think all of those things are huge advantages, right? And the only other thing I would add is the alumni, and what obviously I'm biased given that I probably think about this daily, but I think that this school makes a very deliberate effort to get alumni involved in the day-to-day operation of this institution. And you would see if you came here that we run these programs called Alumni Masterclass series, where people who are really accomplished in their field are willing to give back and chat with students, people who run like major financial private equity firms in New York, people who are people who used to teach but are beloved, and like alumni who are kind of in all kinds of different fields giving back. And there's a lot of mentorship that actively occurs too. I'm sure everybody on this call probably talks to 6 students actively on the go who are currently at Huron across the spectrum of their undergraduate career. There's not many other schools that do all of those things, and that where alumni actually take an active interest in you, and people who have like VP in their title or president in their title or CEO in their title who are willing to give that time back. It's quite valuable, and I think it says a lot about the school.
Love it. Couldn't have said it better myself. Definitely, these are huge highlights. And again, like to Emily and Taylor's points, really unique elements of an experience. And this is definitely kind of a one-of-a-kind opportunity for the undergraduate level here at Huron. And I think you've all really inadvertently answered the second question, which was about what are the biggest differences between the Huron and Western campuses? So Amber, thank you for that question. You've heard from our panelists today about exactly the kind of things that are very unique at Huron. So when you are at Huron, you are part of the overall Western campus. The Huron buildings and facilities are located in the heart of the campus. You graduate with the same Western degree. You have access to everything at Western without compromise. However, everything here at Huron today that our panelists mentioned, whether it's the class sizes, those really high touch points when it comes to paid internships, research, connections to leading alumni, that's actually all exclusive to just Huron students only. So you are getting the best of both worlds. You're getting all the benefits of these, really special liberal arts environment and the elite opportunities that Huron offers, the accessibility with our generous scholarship program, on top of everything else that you will still receive at Western too. So our next question for you all actually is more about some personal experiences that you've had. So the next question says, are there any experiences or people at Huron in particular that you feel were most impactful in helping you achieve the professional success that you enjoy today?
I think for me, my most formative experience that I think contributed to my long-term kind of research interests and career interests was in the psychology department under the leadership of Dr. Tsang, Dr. Christine Tsang. She headed something that was really unique to Huron, which was the Center for Undergraduate Research Learning, or CURL. And that really, speaking of Huron's benefits compared to main campus, that was a really unique feature, particularly for its focus on mentorship. So it was a program that brought in a lot of faculty from across departments and kind of paired them with students to, do our independent research projects. And I think that was a really good chance and a really unique opportunity as an undergraduate to have, your institution and your faculty invest in you in that way and kind of support your ideas. And yeah, it gave me the chance to connect with people from across departments, since the psych program is pretty small, which is its strength, but it also opened doors to connect with people from English departments, history, poli-sci, everything. And yeah, the mentorship I received from Dr. Singh, just, I still stay in touch with her, and she's really being supportive and helped kind of connect me with other psychology faculty. And yeah, I think that was, I don't know, it was really special, and yeah, just really prepared me well for the kind of work I did in graduate school and even after. It was great that they kind of kept that in mind, and yeah, devoted some funding and some faculty time to that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Taylor. I hear so many psychology alumni share fond memories of working with Dr. Christine, and especially the Center for Undergraduate Research Learning. So a highlight definitely of our programs is the psychology program and those opportunities it provides for sure. Emily, what would you say in your opinion?
I think I already touched on it, but it really was just such an impactful one for me that I'll mention it again. I think Vivek did a really good job of outlining it as well. I'd say that the mentorship that I was able to find at Huron, I think, is really what kind of propelled me in a positive direction, and allowed me to kind of get the most out of my experience at Huron, and kind of subsequently with that, the most after the fact. I mean, in terms of the professors, I completely agree with Taylor. There's so many incredible professors that I really felt not only wanted to kind of share their wisdom and knowledge, but they genuinely cared about how we progressed through the 4 years. I mean, the other nice thing about Huron is that often you'll have a professor in your first year political science class or your English class or whatever it might be, and they'll also teach you in your 4th year seminar. So you have that opportunity to build a long-term relationship with these professors year over year, which when I decided I wanted to go on and do a master's degree, really made it a super easy process for me to find reference letters, and for me to find advice on which programs would be good fits for me, what I wanted to do, talk through kind of all those different options. So I think that on the professor side of things was so impactful to me. I mean, I had so many friends at main campus that decided they wanted to do a master's, and they then in their last kind of 6 months of their university experience had to go and rapidly create a relationship with a professor so that they could write a reference letter. I knew I could go to Dr. Bradford, who was one of my professors in 3 separate courses over 3 years, who I built a really good relationship with, and knew without a doubt that I'd have a really good reference in hand, and that it would be a seamless process to submit my master's applications. Also somebody that was just easy to bounce ideas around with what I wanted to study. But in addition to the professors, I think the student base at Huron is truly incredible. I mean, I mentioned it before. Vivek was a massive mentor to me and still continues to be. And I had so many other really good friends who kind of helped me on my path all the way along. I kind of joke sometimes that I don't really know why I chose political science out of first year. I did the typical liberal arts thing where I took a little bit of everything in first year and kind of ended up in political science, which I'm completely happy that I did. But I think that was really in large part because of the friends that I made in upper years, even when I was just in first year, and kind of the encouragement that I got from so many people that really kind of helped me decide what I wanted to do while I was at Huron, and decide how I wanted to kind of spend my time. And then that was able to propel me into the career that I have now.
I love that story so much because it's, again, the core tenet of what we have to offer here, right? Like having the broader first year, getting that big exposure, and then through mentorship, advice, and recommendations, being able to hone in on really what your heart desires and what's right for you in the future. And to the students watching, I think this is one of the most underrated and underspoken parts of the importance of choosing a university, is thinking really deeply around which environment will give you those reference letters that Emily mentioned that allowed her to succeed in her prestigious graduate school program. I remember going to my Huron professor 2 years after they taught me a class, and they still remembered my project from their class 2 years ago, all the jobs I held on campus, my summer internship, and they wrote a biography of me, not a reference letter, because they know you so in depth. In a class of 400 people, really impossible to get that. So thank you, Emily, for touching on such an important point. And Vivek, what were some of your most formative experiences or people that impacted you?
Sure. One thing I'd say about the reference letter thing, I think it's something for everyone should keep this in mind. I've seen some reference requests where they don't just say, oh, it must be a professor, but they want something deeper than that. It must be a professor that's known you for X years, someone who has mentored you in this. Some students may not actually have that if you went to a massive university and you went into only seminar type classes. So just think about that when you're applying for schools, just making sure that you are able to develop those kinds of relationships. Every Huron student has that relationship with the professor. There are some universities that a student wouldn't have a single one. In terms of my experiences that I felt were formative, I think there's a question from Dr. Sharma here just about what classes I would recommend. I would say this, it's funny, I did, like Emily, I was in politics and government. I never took a single political science class at Huron, not a single one, ever. I took history. But I think that it's not necessarily the classes. It's about what are the skills that you learn when you're there. And critical thinking, being able to write well. And I would stress the second one, being able to write well and being able to articulate your point of view in a way that is concise, in a way that is informed, in a way that's well researched. Interpersonal skills and being able to participate actively, all of those skills, and being supportive of your team members and classmates and all those things, those are skills that you gain in the classroom. Doesn't necessarily need a course number or a discipline. So that is something when I look at when I was in government, when I was an agency at my current job, I don't really care about the classes they took. I care about the skills that they have. And in terms of that, like I would just say, like those in between moments, like talking to professors and really getting that mentorship from professors was awesome. But also the extracurricular activities for me, right? Like it's the connections that you make with people on campus. It's always important and critical to have solid academic underpinnings because that's why you're there. But I think making sure you're exposed to extracurriculars. And one of my someone I knew from Western was actually probably one of the reasons, and Huron, one of the reasons why I got my job in the Prime Minister's office, because of those relationships, right? That person went on to become the Minister of Education for the province of Ontario. So you never know, right? Like these people who you're with and these people who you spend time with and your similar interests, they also go on to do some pretty cool things themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Vivek. And we have another question here, which I'm happy to answer as a member of our scholarship committee and our international recruitment team. The questions around diversity at Huron in terms of race, social, and economic backgrounds compared to other universities. This is something which is really, really important to Huron's core values and mission. So as part of our vision of leadership with heart, and as part of the fact that we are creating Canada's not just most academically elite, but financially accessible education. So we have one of the highest entrance averages in the country, but some of the most generous investments and scholarships, including the only financial aid system for international students in the country. So we have 30% of our student population is international, from over 50 countries around the world. And I felt myself as a newcomer to Canada, an international student at Huron, that I learned perspectives in the classroom that were very different than ones I may have been exposed to in my home country before coming here. And that was, I think, single-handedly one of the best values of the Huron education. Imagine a class of 20, 25 people who all know each other, they're comfortable speaking and discussing and debating ideas, and you're having representation from all nationalities, all ethnicities, all economic backgrounds as part of these important conversations on global issues. That is truly how you learn and reflect on important questions in life, compared to being in a 600-person lecture hall and seeing this through a PowerPoint. So I think to that end, Huron really focuses on this in a very spectacular way. And the intentional focus on diversity and economic inclusion certainly creates this really important environment at Huron. And I know, Vivek, you have some things to say about this.
No, I was just gonna say, I think if you look at the last, I graduated in 2013. So if you look at the last, it's kind of crazy, 8 years, that the diversity on campus, right? I've had a chance to really see it. And the one difference I think between Huron and other institutions is that who are we recruiting to the campus? It's not just one country. It's just not a group of 2 countries. It is a very diverse and multicultural community. But the other thing I would say is that the supportive environment, there's the Huron Indian Cultural Association. And that was a bunch of first-year students who came on campus and they felt like they had that at Western, but like in terms, there was enough scale now and I guess population of students that they wanted to start it, and then Huron gave them the resources to do it and gave them the confidence to do it. And now they have amazing like Diwali parties and like all that kind of stuff. And we're now on a very small campus and educating people. There are people who have no association with India who are part of that club, because it's such a great club. And I see it across not just one country or culture, but it's across. So I think it's really great what they've been able to do.
Moose, can I just jump in really quick too? maybe this is the one point I'd add too. So I was an orientation leader 2 separate years while I was during my time at Huron, and in my last year, I was an orientation leader specifically for international students, which everybody wanted to be the international students orientation leader because it was always just such a fun group. And I think the thing that I'd say the most is I did my master's in the UK, so I was an international student while I was in the UK, and the school that I went to did not have the kind of programs that Huron has to actually integrate kind of new students to Canada into campus, into life, all that type of stuff. And I was really happy that I kind of got to see what Huron did to support students, that you aren't just an international student when you come to campus. You really kind of become part of the campus community or part of your classes. I still have so many friends that I made at Huron that were international students that live all over the world, that when I get to travel, I get to go and visit people in all kinds of different places. So I just think that's something that's a really unique part of the community feel that Huron brings too, is that you don't just kind of get stuck in one spot. You are able to really integrate with Canadian life and experience Canadian winter and all those fun things that we don't necessarily love, but it's just, I think, a really unique part of Huron too.
Taylor?
And I'll just add into what Emily was saying. I also had a really diverse cohort for my graduate program, and it was a little bit overwhelming since it was just 1 year, and there were so many people from around the world, and I found Huron to be a really helpful experience to prepare for that. And it's interesting, definitely feeling like an outsider sometimes when you're entering a program and there's no one else from Canada. It can be hard to integrate, but I had a really good time at Huron. I felt really included. In speaking more to the kind of economic diversity side, I found that was really instrumental for me in pursuing further graduate studies. As affordable as post-secondary education is in Canada, it was still wonderful. I was on the Helma Scholarship, and that really helped me save up for graduate programs. And I honestly don't think that without that kind of financial support from donors and other scholarships at Huron, that I would have been able to honestly afford more expensive international graduate education. So something to definitely keep in mind.
Wonderful. Thank you, Taylor. And thank you for touching on especially this important concept of accessibility and Huron's investments in scholarships, because, just before you were saying that, we did get a question in the chat. The question says, there's a reputation that Huron has mostly very wealthy students. Is that correct? And I think we're very proud to the fact that, again, our classroom represents wider society as a whole, all economic backgrounds, all national backgrounds, religions, ethnicities. And Amber, it's an excellent question, and a really important priority for us is the fact that, again, Huron's environment is going to be academically elite, but accessible. And a huge focus on that. And so our Helmut Scholarship gives a full ride to students who are applying from within Canada. Our international presidential scholarships are some of the most generous compared to any university in Canada for international students. And the first financial aid for international students has been launched here, which is really exciting. You may have also seen in the news that we have launched our Career Accelerator program with a scholars outreach to support marginalized students in high school on accessing university education. So really, this is a world where we understand that talent is everywhere, opportunity is not, and Huron will continue to play a big role on the global stage to address that and ensure that we welcome the best and brightest, regardless of what their backgrounds may be. We have our final question for our panelists. It's kind of both a deep question and also a fun question. So I'll combine both together. The question says, any advice for students looking to follow in your footsteps one day, or, for their future careers? And then as a side piece to wrap up, share with us something light and fun about your favorite memory at Huron. It could be a certain event, a certain day on campus, something that you attended that you think would be great to share with the students. So Taylor, if you'd like to begin, please feel free to go ahead.
Sure. I think if I were to, give advice to my past self or future students, I think a common theme which everyone here has brought up is focusing on building relationships and, appreciating the really unique opportunity at Huron to do that. So not only knowing that it's small class sizes, but taking initiative to reach out to your professors and peers, and I found it really unique that I was able to get investment from people in my ideas and kind of, I found after graduating in grad school, I appreciated how rare that was and how I wasn't, not a lot of other people had that experience in undergrad. And, in further research, at least in my field, when you have an idea, you need to get a lot of funding. You have to, get a lot of people on board. And at Huron, it's really a kind of unique opportunity to experiment and try things out and, not have this take risks without a fear of failure that I feel like a lot of people have. And there's so much pressure, not just at Huron, but, to figure out what you want to do at the end of your degree. And I think the most important thing for me was meeting so many people who were 10 to 15 years older than me in my programs who were still figuring it out and were just not even planning so far ahead, which I feel like, especially in your senior year, you can, whether it's high school or college, you can be freaking out about. But understanding that, looking at what's in front of you sometimes and focusing on being satisfied and challenged with what you're doing is really important, because sometimes you can't predict anything. I mean, in my program, people were coming from all kinds of backgrounds, and they had kind of understood that this kind of linear path that a lot of people want to take and feel safe taking is not as rewarding. And I think it can be scary to think about, but that was kind of liberating for me, and it gave me some confidence in, just considering other jobs or further grad school, that I was able to adapt to new environments and always keep my interests, at the front of my decisions. I think in terms of fun memories of Huron, I love the Beaver Dam. That was just a really great space for me in terms of like between classes. It can be so busy. I always love that. And then, living in New York now, I definitely appreciate the nature at Huron too. So I have a lot of fun memories of going on walks and hikes and, the backyard and the forest. And I think that's the wonderful thing about London, is that you have the city, but you also just have this beautiful nature that you can just, walk into and kind of clear your head. So I definitely miss that.
Wonderful, amazing insights, Taylor. Thank you so much for sharing all those with the students today. Emily, what would you say?
I think mine actually builds quite nicely off of Taylor's. I'd say that my biggest piece of advice that I give everybody is that put yourself in a position where you can build your confidence. So whatever that's in, I mean, there's certainly lots of people from here on, and Vivek and I are included in that, who go down the government or that kind of route. But I think regardless of what you're interested in, what you want to study, the thing that Huron really gave me was the opportunity to build my confidence in so many different ways. I mean, I came from a very small school that I'd been at my entire life. I had the same group of friends for my whole life. And I kind of decided to go to Huron because I wanted to kind of branch out and do something different, but I wanted to do it in a community that I knew would be supportive of that and wasn't kind of throwing myself off the deep end. So I think it was always really important for me to make sure that I was setting myself up for success. And that sometimes meant being trying to be that bigger fish in a smaller pond type thing. And Huron was definitely the environment where I was able to try everything out. And I mean, I think it would probably be one of my favorite kind of memories or funny stories of Huron. When I first got to campus, I was so overwhelmed. It was a totally new environment. I hadn't made new friends in a really long time. So I just decided I was going to meet everybody and do everything. So by the time I got to Christmas, I basically knew every single first year on campus and as many upper years as would talk to me. And I was playing for the flag football team. I was in the dramatic society. I was on student council. I was doing all kinds of things that I hadn't even dreamed of doing when I was in high school, just because I wanted to get involved. My dad always said to me when I was growing up, be the person that puts your hand up, be the person that volunteers. So I really got to do so many different opportunities. Some of them certainly weren't for me. I think my dramatic society career was very short-lived, but I really got to kind of jump into the government and campus politics world, where I really kind of found my niche and got to do so many opportunities where I met those mentors, met really great friends, had people encourage me all the way throughout. So I think that would be the biggest advice I could give, is to set yourself up for success by setting yourself up to build your confidence in yourself, so that you can continue to do things. And that doesn't mean failing. Everybody fails at things. Everybody doesn't always do the best. I took one course at main campus that I did very, very horribly in, and I still think about it. But it taught me a lot about resilience and kind of how to build yourself back up. So that would be, I think, my biggest piece of advice.
Incredible. Thank you, Emily. So much for the students here to learn as well. And Vivek, what would you say?
I would say, like, the core thing, I think this is an obvious, hopefully obvious thing, but it's obviously academics should always come first and whenever you're doing all these things. But I would also say that you go into university, and I can speak for myself here, you go into university, you think you know what you want to do. It's like 95% untrue. Like it's probably not going to pan out the way that you think when you first come onto campus. Like I thought I was going to do a Taylor might laugh, a psych biology degree with main campus. I was eventually thinking, oh, like maybe I want to do like medicine or something eventually, but I really wanted the Huron experience. That was not for me. I realized that within the first 5 or 6 months, which was totally fine. And I think so far it's like working out, but I think that's you have to be flexible, and it's not going to pan out the way you think it is, and nor should it, because you're getting presented with all of these new opportunities. Don't be afraid to try them. Don't be afraid to talk to people, right? Like get advice from folks. You don't have to do it all by yourself. That's the whole point of being at a school like Huron. At those big universities, maybe even the one across the street, you might actually be doing it by yourself because there's no one really to get that advice from. But I think at Huron, you actually are able to do that. You're able to get that counsel from not just your peers, but your professors or the administration or alumni. So really make yourself flexible and learn those skills, like being a good writer, being a good critical thinker, all those things, and you will be successful no matter what. And favorite memory, I think, would probably be orientation week. I have a lot of favorite memories, but that one was great. One being in it when I first came to school, and my bags got taken to my room for me, and like everything, you kind of get like start to make friends ideally pretty quickly. But it's also being an orientation week leader in the years afterwards, right? And it's been great it's a great way to get to know students and to make sure they have the same kind of experience that you did, and a ton of fun.
I have to say, this has probably been my favorite conversation all today, and it's because of the three of you and just the incredible insights, information, and reflection that you've shared with the students today. You know, it's one thing we could talk about scholarships, programs, and everything, but your real life human experiences, your perspective from that first day of class to the incredible careers that all three of you have shared with us here today has been wonderful. I couldn't be more proud to call you all fellow alumni and friends, and I'm very grateful for the time that you've spent here today sharing that with the students. So to the students listening and watching, we really hope you've enjoyed today's session. On behalf of Team Huron, we're very glad to have had you here and to see you at our virtual fall open house. There are many other sessions going on today and also tomorrow. And just so you know that these sessions will be available in recording afterwards. I know I'll be going back and reflecting on some of those amazing insights that all three of our panelists here shared today, and you are more than welcome to do the same. So if at any time you'd like personalized guidance with your options for academics and future careers, or to get insights into which programs can offer you what opportunities, we are here to help you no matter where you are in the world. So on behalf of all of us, once again, thank you so much for joining, and we wish you a wonderful day and hope you enjoy the rest of our event.